And here's what's cool about an appraised value. An appraised value will allow a buyer to feel like they are making a smart decision. Like if it is part of the process where we can go, if you want it, we actually had an appraisal done on this property. We have that available to you if you want it. That might make a buyer go,
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to 10 Tenths, where we coach real estate agents out of burnout into high-performing businesses that fuel their lives. If that's something that you're looking to do, then you have come to the right place. And if this is your first time here, I am one of your co-hosts, Matt Pinelli, joined by my amazing co-host, Garrett Fry. And if you want to learn more about us, you just go to 10tenths.co and you can find all the stuff that we got going on. Inside Track, 11 Circle, which if you don't know what those mean, then you should go to the website and find out.
Check it out.
And we also have webinars and accelerators. If you don't know what those mean, you should go to the website and find out. Garrett, what's up, man?
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good to be back. And we got some fun talk. We're going to continue down our week of data. We started off on Monday with a data type driven podcast, and Matt, as we were getting ready to do this one today, we're like, okay, we need to lead with that one. We're going to circle back around, and we're going to talk a little bit today about fair market value and maybe the potential trap that we don't even realize that we're getting ourselves into when we're talking with sellers and we're talking with buyers about what this whole idea of fair market value is, Matt. Maybe we should come in below fair market value, just go a little bit low there, which made me stop and go like, maybe that was fair market value if that's where the buyers want to play.
Yeah. And so our kind of tagline for this episode is stop saying fair market value, or at least stop using it maybe the way that you have been using it. Fair market value is certainly a fair term, but let's discuss what fair market value is. And when you look at fair market value, whether it's real estate, a commodity, whatever it is, I mean, it is what a willing and able buyer is willing to pay and a willing and able seller is willing to sell for under no duress in the current market conditions. Well, how do we determine that? It needs to happen, doesn't it? Yes, we can use all these different tools and everything to give a idea of where fair market value could be. And that's fair. But then we go into Garrett having these conversations with sellers of like, well, I'm going to price it below fair market value. Wait a minute. I didn't realize we determined actual fair market value yet. We pontificated on it. We are predicting it maybe within a range, but now we're going to anchor somebody's mindset by saying, yes, this is where we're going compared to fair market value.
Well, it's one of those, we try to stay away from going, here's what I think your property is worth. But then we go, well, we're going to go 3% below fair market value, and now we're going to put the price here. Well, that tells me that you think my property is worth this. Like, wait, how?
Garrett, you said it great to me the other day. You're like, man, I got so many people coming to me and saying, I'm having so much difficulty pricing homes right now. And so let's go price them right below fair market value. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, what I said is, I'm like, can we stop saying that? Because what you're actually doing is you're putting it at a place where the buyers want to interact with that property, which is probably fair market value. And then the buyers can do their thing with it. They all of a sudden can go to battle for it and be like, no, I don't want Matt to get that property. I want that damn property. That's where I want my family to be. And they might bid it up to fair market value for what they're willing to pay for it. They might not, though. Like, this is the interesting thing. You might only have Garrett come out of the woodwork and go like, I like that house. I think it's pretty good. I'm going to buy this home, and it goes under contract at fair market value that I'm willing to pay for it, that the seller's willing to sell for. But now it feels a little weird because if it was talked about that we priced it below fair market value, Garrett got a deal. I gave up some money here that maybe I didn't want to give up. Maybe we should. Maybe we should check with AI, Matt. Should we check with AI and see if maybe we sold for too cheap? Maybe that's a good thing to go do.
Yeah, for sure. But then what are you going to do after that? Right.
Yeah.
And so Lindsay Geiger, who's an agent in Denver, said it best in our group call today, actually. She was explaining a conversation after a question and said, pricing compared to the competition.
Yes.
I'm like, that makes a lot of sense, because what we're talking about is a positioning strategy, positioning against everybody else, pricing, if you want to use that word. But once we get into saying, there's a difference between saying, here's where we think the fair market value range could be, and then there is how we price compared to fair market value, which is basically saying to a client, we've established where your property is going to trade.
Yep.
And now they're going to anchor that in their mind. And if it doesn't hit that or go above it, they're going to be disappointed.
Yep.
No matter what, even if everything else goes great, that anchor exists now in their mind. And I'm sorry to say, you put it there by saying it.
The competition side that Lindsay brought up is spot on, and I feel that when we can take a look at it from the competition side, and if, let's say, we're going to price a little bit below, maybe it's even 1%. That's what came up in the group call today, was like, well, 3%, 2%, 1%, like what is the magic number of pricing below competition? And all these are factors to make ourselves attractive as we put this home out in the marketplace. They're all little pieces that we have control over. And when you go, let's say, if the property needs it to go 1% below competition, 2% below the competition, it might need that because of the condition, because of the location, because of the features and amenities that it has to offer. Like, there's factors there that would put you into a position of saying, how much lower do we need to go? But it was interesting also, Matt, where Jen Mons, she's up in the Tri-Cities areas of Washington on our group call. She brought up actually looking at the stats of the top listing agents in their office and how they were pricing properties and how it was affecting the results. These are the top listing and selling agents. And Matt, if I remember correctly, like she noticed that all of their properties were priced below the competition, which was allowing those properties to turn over at a high rate without them just collecting inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she said it was about 1% to 2%.
Yeah.
Which led us to the discussion of like, well, that kind of makes sense, because if you're looking at consumer confidence and how they purchase things and laws of economics, like, oh, if these things are priced below these things over here and we perceive them to be of similar value, probably going to buy the thing that's less expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why would I spend more on something that would... Now, the difference in real estate, this is where it gets very interesting, is every single property is unique, which is another reason why I don't think that we should be using
Fair market
the term
value.
fair market value ahead of it happening, except in certain situations, which I'll get to. Because every piece of real estate is so different or so outrageously similar, but has little differences. Different buyers are going to value those things differently, which means that you, the listing agent, who's no intention of buying this property, really cannot determine fair market value. Like, you're not a party to fair market value. Only the seller and the buyer are a party to fair market value. And the problem with the seller is they don't want to buy the house anymore.
Yep.
They're trying to sell it. There's no value left in them there. Now, there is value at a certain price point for them. Maybe if it like goes too low to saying, hey, I don't want to sell, I'll stay here for that value, because the value comparison of what they have to where they want to go now has changed. That delta has changed, which is where most buyers and sellers sit. Can I get this thing for a price where it provides me more value than what I currently have? And as a listing agent, we cannot determine that.
Yep.
We can predict, we can guide, we can show some data. That's where knowing your numbers, go back an episode to really understand that one. And then helping people position and write offers effectively for them to achieve their goal. That's where we got to go.
Well, and here's the interesting thing with sellers is that, yes, they could get locked into, but I can't sell for lower than this. Like, I have to be at a certain price. Totally can happen. There's a value that maybe they might put on it and say, well, at that number, I'd rather just stay here. They may own the house outright. They may not have a loan attached to it at all. There's no reason, but their mind just says, you know what? I'm not willing to have this home sell with a 7 in front of it, 8 or higher. That's the only thing I'm willing to accept. That can happen. All that tells me is their pain level and their level of whatever they're going through right now is not strong enough to make them move away. They're selling based off maybe a potential number they can get for the house. It's a bad reason to sell. especially when we're talking about personal residences. Like, this is your life that you're creating with you right now. And what we're looking at is, do we really have a seller in our hands then? Because for the most part, what causes people to really sell, to make those decisions, to say, you know what, if all we can get is $750 for it, that's okay, because I need to get closer to my kids right now. They've got grandbabies on the way. I want to be in that neck of the woods with them. I don't want to be all the way across the United States. I want to be closer to them. I don't care. I don't care about the $50,000 that I think this property might be worth more. I'm ready to go. And this is where all of a sudden they make the decision to price it in a place that's going to sell, that will determine what the fair market value is when the buyer goes, I see you. I like what you got. I want that. Fair market value determined.
And what you kind of showcased is that the element of current market conditions plays into fair market value. And you have a seller who's unwilling to sell below 8. Well, okay. We're not going to find a fair market value in this market for you, for that property, because you are unwilling to play. And that's okay.
Yep.
That's totally okay. I mean, there are exceptions to this, and this would be foreclosures and all these things. If you have buyers or sellers who are under duress, right? And this is where, and this goes in either direction, right? So you'll see people like, man, I can't believe that buyer paid that much for that property. Well, maybe they had a very, very unique situation where they had to buy something for one reason or another. Now, does anybody have to buy something? Okay, you can discuss the nuance, but that's where somebody might, quote, overpay. And you may pull that from an analysis to say, hey, we believe this is an outlier. What's interesting, Garrett, is most property owners and potential sellers will never dismiss an overpayment as an outlier. They'll be like, nope, that one sold for way above market. That must be included in where we need to look at our fair market value range, when it's like, maybe that buyer like just had to buy. But they'll easily dismiss the foreclosures, the sellers that just had to sell under duress. We're like, no, that one's totally an outlier. And I agree. Those are outliers that don't really map to where a fair market value range could be. But let's also go back to understanding that every piece of real estate is very, very unique. And buyers and sellers have different needs, which will drive what happens into the negotiations. But specifically when it comes to positioning these properties, Garrett, we need to eliminate from our language how we're pricing compared to the fair market value for this property, because it hasn't actually officially been established yet for this marketplace. And that's a very important point that we need to make sure that we're making when we're having these discussions.
What you just said, it hasn't been established yet. Like this property I'm standing in right now has not seen the opportunity to see a fair market value in 15 years. It hasn't. It's been held off the market. It's been being loved and enjoyed and lived in and being created memories in that none of you guys can see. Only I can see. They're very good, by the way. This has been a great house. I have glitter glued onto my front doorstep as you enter my house. And none of you can see the conversation with Celeste that happened about 12 years ago, where I was like, please don't do that art project on my front doorstep. And she was like, it's fine, Daddy. It will come off. It's still there. Still have glitter on my front doorstep. These are the things that nobody gets to see, that I smile every single time I see that glitter. There's value in that glitter for me in this house, even though I hate glitter. But when you look at that, this house hasn't had that chance to see what true fair market value is. All we have is the data to look at of the competition that we're directly up against. Hopefully we have a buyer out there that actually goes, I like what you got. And I have a unique property that I would love to see it in the comments. How many of you would like to be able to get on your mountain bike, on your back porch, ride out your back gate, hit literally hundreds of miles of mountain biking trails, and you can ride right back to your back gate, ride right up. You never even have to hit the street. You don't have to go see anybody except your fellow mountain bikers out there on the trails. You can do that here. Not everybody's going to pay for that. There are people that would pay over, Matt, as you just said. They might go big because they're like, I want that. That would be amazing. we got to see what the buyers are willing to pay. We got to see who's playing in the marketplace right now. A buyer might be there, they might not. But then this gets back into, how fast, Garrett, do you need to be out of here? How fast do you need to be to your next place? Are you willing to wait for that one buyer that's willing to pay over? Or are we going to do our best to hit the pool of buyers to allow you to move on, find that fair market value, and be done? And the crazy thing is, when that crazy buyer, that crazy mountain biker enters the world and comes and sees the house and goes, I'm willing to pay way over for that because I want that experience, that's actually fair market value now.
It is. Well, and it's, what is the market definition, right? All real estate. Okay. Well, that in that market, there's going to be a lot of averages and medians, but in the market of mountain bikers, like mountain bikers who own homes, right? Now we're talking about mountain bikers who own homes in California, mountain bikers who want to buy homes in California, right? Oh, now specifically Redding, California.
Mountain biking
and now
families.
the market becomes very, very small. So yes, in that small market, fair market value might be higher, but again, based on the situation. And I think this is where language gets very important, because people will then start saying, well, what about appraisals and all these things? It's like, well, if you notice, I've never seen or heard an appraiser call their value that they place on a home fair market value. They call it appraised value because it has a definition on how that value was achieved to determine the appraised value, which is not the same as fair market value. And just like knowing the numbers and knowing the data, if you know the language, it helps you have these conversations with sellers. So when they say, but we got our house appraised last year for $850. Are you telling me that that appraisal is wrong? I'm not telling you it's wrong. I'm telling you that they used an appraised value. And here's how an appraised value works. But we're going out into a marketplace where this is the data of what's happening with the direction and the speed of the market. And we can go to the appraised value if you want, and we could potentially miss these buyers that are passing through. Is that something that you want to do? Oh, well, not really. Great. Well, then let's shoot for a fair market value by pricing this home against competition and also pricing it so that we can attract buyers in, so that we can determine and hit the true fair market value for this home.
And here's what's cool about an appraised value. An appraised value will allow a buyer to feel like they are making a smart decision. Like if it is part of the process where we can go, if you want it, we actually had an appraisal done on this property. We have that available to you if you want it. That might make a buyer go, I feel a little bit better about this because an actual appraiser came in, looked at all the facts and says, this is what this home's probably appraised at. It does not mean that that's what they have to buy it for. And I think that's the interesting thing to talk to the sellers. Like, it does not mean that a buyer is necessarily going to pay for that. I can have my wife's ring appraised, and at the end of the day, I still got to take that to a jeweler who's going to be like, I'm willing to, but let's weigh it. We're going to look at the weight of gold right now. We're going to look, by the way, gold is changing all over the place if you follow that kind of stuff. You know, you start looking at that and they might go, I love your appraisal. It's very nice. I'm not paying that for it though. Here's what I will pay. Here's the stone size that's in there. Here's the clarity. And here's, by the way, we're not selling Sarah's ring. That's not happening. But here's the stone size. Here's the clarity. And here's the weight in gold and the quality of the gold. They then get to say, I'm willing to pay it for this. Fair market value is established when I go, I'm willing to sell it for that. That is the time we need to be talking about and using this terminology of fair market value. Everything else is the competition that's out there. It's what we're up against, and it's trying to get the buyers to be attracted to this property that we're putting into the marketplace. And Matt, as we've talked about it, sellers love to think that they can determine fair market value. Realtors love to think they know what fair market value is. And I would encourage all of you, when that whole thing of what do you think my property is worth comes up, this is the type of verbiage that we need to start having with our people to say, we don't get to determine fair market value. Like, we need to stop even saying that word. All we can determine is what we're going to present this property as, and hopefully we find a buyer that it resonates with that will help us determine what the fair market value is. Until then, there's a lot of question marks out here. But it's funny, Matt, realtors take that on like, but I should know. I should be able to answer that question. Maybe there's something wrong with me as a realtor if I can't give them that number. I've seen realtors stress out over feeling like they should know that number. And I think the best thing is to have a very different conversation and see if we can kind of take it off the plate and figure out what we need to do to help them get that property attractive enough for the buyer that will determine it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this is why there's so much insurance fraud out there, right? Because people go and find out like, wait, I can't actually sell it for that? Well, maybe I need to lose it. On the appraised value real quick, I think what's interesting is I can see people turning this around the other way too. So, oh, well, if appraised value is not fair market value, then we don't have to renegotiate when the appraisal comes in low. And you know what? You're absolutely right. And I've seen buyers pay above the appraised value. The big problem there comes into what the lenders are going to do, because the lenders like to protect their investments. And if they're going to loan out on something and they have a certain loan to value ratio that they need to hit, that loan to value isn't loan to fair market value. It's loan to appraised value. And that's why you run into those situations with appraisals and why there's so much, back and forth sometimes when they don't come in the way that we expect them to, which is the contract price. Because arguably the appraisal should, we have a contract here. They should better analyze, is this buyer willing and able and of their free will and looking to pay this price? And is this seller without any influence, willing and able and free will to then, sell it for this price? Appraisal done. We grant this contract a clean bill of health, move forward. But that's not how it works. I
used to laugh at the conversations I'd have with realtors where they're like, isn't it weird that the appraisal, it almost always comes in at the number? Like, why is that? Like, do the appraisals even know? Do they even know what they're doing, the appraisers? Are they just, just willy-nilly just picking? I'm like, no, there's a real buyer willing to pay that amount of money. And if they're like, you know what, we're kind of in the range, the easiest thing is to go, yep. There you go. We got a real buyer. We got the appraisal seems to work and everything kind of fits there. You're good. It usually only becomes a problem when something is out of whack, when something is not being looked at correctly, or sometimes, this is why appraisal packets are so important, because sometimes the appraisers miss some stuff.
Yeah. Well, and this is where you get to verify different things. Like I had this situation with someone I know where they thought their house was a certain size. Turns out it wasn't. And it is an oops. And who's kind of responsible for that? But that impacted the appraised value of the home signidigantly, or at least enough for it to cause an issue. When we say
I always felt like we were missing a room. Like it's something. Yeah. I knew the number, but it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, but even with that too, and square footage and size, again, value is in the eye of the beholder, and it would make more sense that there's more analysis done on, is this a quality buyer, is this a quality seller? But again, hard to do, so that's why they rely on appraised value, because it's faster.
Yeah.
Right? So the whole point here, Garrett, right, is just mind the language that you're using, because if you're using fair market value, you could be setting an anchor that you are now going to have to fight against throughout this entire process with this seller that you didn't even think that you did. And you're like, throughout the whole thing, you're like, why are they so set on this price? Because you used a terminology that maybe we shouldn't have used.
Yeah. And the reason this whole podcast came about today is because we're watching people really fixate on what fair market value is. They'll talk about how this property sold for below fair market value. No, it didn't. It sold at where a buyer was willing to buy it at, and that is the fair market value of that property. It did not sell for below fair market value. We had an agent just recently she was on the group call, and other agents in her office were telling her that she was, selling them. No, she was selling the properties at fair market values, which she was doing. Willing seller, willing to put it on at a certain price. Buyers willing to pay at a certain price. Properties are selling at fair market value.
That's what by the way, that just grinds my gears when people are like, oh man, that person's selling them too cheap. It's like, well, then why didn't you buy it?
Exactly. If it's that cheap, you would be picking those up and turning them as profit. That's what you would be doing.
But I didn't want to buy it. I don't have this. Well, then you're not allowed to.
You're not a buyer then. That's perfect. You don't get to determine. So I think there's this element here, and this is why we brought it up. And I would encourage, just like Lindsay was saying, is that fair? Really, what we're looking at is the competition that we're directly up against. Jen Mons was saying the exact same thing: the competition that we're directly up against, and then you get to make some decisions with the data that you give to your clients, to make some decisions of how do we want to approach this? What are our options here, so that we can attract in a great, and again, here's the cool thing. There's really good buyers in the marketplace right now. They're willing to buy. They have cash. They have the means to be able to do this. They have been sitting on life changes. They need something different right now. They are good buyers in the marketplace that you can miss if you don't approach this marketplace appropriately. So again, that's where we're at. Matt, anything else we need to add into this?
I don't think so. I mean, I would just say be very cautious with the terminology that you're using and the opinions you're levying on fair market value.
Well, and where Matt and I come from, as you guys have heard us say before, is your business should fuel your life. It should not consume it. And if that feels right to you, come check out everything we got going on at 10tenths.co. We've got webinars that we're doing. We have accelerators that we're doing. We have the group coaching that we do every single week. We've got an inside that has stuff that we offer every single day of value. We would love to have you come check it out. You can go grab the app. You can go to our website. You can reach directly out to Matt and I. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And again, if this episode felt good to you, if you're a managing broker and you want to share this into your office, please do it. If you're an agent in your office, you want to share with your managing broker so that he can share it, please do that. If you don't follow us on YouTube, come check us out there. You can subscribe. Doesn't cost a darn thing. It just does awesome stuff for us, helping us grow what we are building here. So you can click on that button. You can like the episode on there, and you can comment, and I promise you I will answer you back. And with that being said, Matt, thank you, sir. Appreciate you tons, and appreciate all of you out there who show up all the time for us.
Thank you. Take care, people.
Bye, everybody.